Welcome to the Mighty Duck Hunters project. The objective of this project was to identify the number and location of ducks within each play and provide meaningful insights into them. We were given three datasets: the well header, which contains the header location and information, production data with production types and volumes, and the perforation activity file with types and dates of completion activities. In an ideal case, wells are drilled, completed, produced, all dates and activities stamped. From the data set, we have the rig release date, which marked the drilling event, but no marked completion event or dates we can use as a standard. Wells have different methods of completion, so that presented a challenge of choice. Some wells have the observation number marked 1, which was the actual first completion activity in the well, but this was just a small fraction of the data sets. Also, some operators classed the same activity under different names. Now, since there is no standard well completion, we could use production data. If the well is producing, then it's not a duct. But some wells are flow tested before completion, giving the impression that they're not ducts, when in fact they are, since they've not been completed. So, in order to find ducts, our first criteria was if there's no completion activity within the first 64 days after the rig release date, then it's a true duct. We chose 64 to cover the majority of wells in data sets, and we used a combination of the observation number ones and domain knowledge to limit the list of completion activities. Second, if there's no production within 64 days from the rig release date, then it's not activated and it's a duct. Third, if there's a production gap of more than 32 days between any of the first 3 months of production data, then we assume that this is a flow test, not a completion, and therefore it's a duct. We chose 32 to cover two production reporting periods. And that lastly, we excluded the data after 1st of December 2019. Since we're using a 64-day window and the last data date was January 2020, we didn't want to mistakenly class wells as ducts that stopped at that date. Note that this means that any duct count going forward would have a 2-month lag. And when we applied our criteria, we found almost 1,500 true ducts in the data set. The Monthly and Viking had almost 90% of the ducts, and Baytex topped the operators with the most ducts. Plotting the ducts by month, it correlated with the drilling count and winter seasonality cycles. We averaged 26 new ducts per month, with March 2017 seeing the highest count. We also found instances where wells were completed a short time after drilling but were not produced. These did not meet the definition of a duct, so we call them ducts plus. We included them in our findings as they can also influence supply elasticity. They have the same characteristics as the overall data set in terms of location, formation, and operator counts. Now we'll talk about just a few insights and use cases due to time constraints. As we expected, the number of drilled wells tracked crude oil and natural gas prices, with 2017 and 18 seeing the most drilling. However, there is another factor at work. If we look at the refinery location, that's the print crosses, the crude pipeline map, and the natural gas pipelines, we see that Montney lacks access to pipelines and refining facilities. This could be a contributing factor to the higher number of docks in that formation. If there's no access to market, then there will be no incentive to complete wells as soon as they are drilled. Now, these maps are the major pipeline networks, but pipeline shipping and completion companies can use this information to better target operators in that area. Also, governmental bodies can better understand where docks may be kept in place just because there's no pipeline access there. Now, this plot shows from bottom right production increase, crude shipments by rail on the bottom left, current and future pipeline capacity, and the number of docks all by year. Now, even with steady drilling in 2017 and 18, dock counts fell. We attribute this to the increase in crude shipments by rail as more wells were completed. Therefore, we see that with market access, dock counts will fall. So when future pipeline capacity starts coming on stream, we anticipate that the more docks will be completed. Servicers and bankers can use this information to strategize future activities and investments. One thing we found from the dock counts, while total count fell from 2017 to 19, docks in the Viking stayed relatively stable. Looking at the top 10 operators, we see that 8 of the 10 are in the Montney, but Baytex and Teen Energy are the exception in the Viking. And from the pipeline maps, there appears to be pipeline access in the Viking. So this dock count is contrary to our previous conclusion. Plus, both companies have roughly the same amount of total wells, but Baytex had more than three times the dock count. We researched recent news events and financial reports but could not find anything to explain these discrepancies. So more research needs to be done. But there's several use cases with this information. First off, servicers can target the top operators as they will have the most docks to complete. These top 10 hold almost 60% of all docks. Our regulatory bodies will know who holds the most docks and where. Operators can use the information to plan their activities. Let's take, for example, Baytex and Teen again. Knowing that Baytex has 200 plus docks, Teen can push to schedule pipeline capacity and complete its docks before Baytex. Bankers can also strategically invest based on this information. Now, assuming both companies can complete all their docks, Baytex could offer a higher return on investment because it has more wells coming online. So, with that, we believe that we've met the objective of this project of finding docs and bringing insights. And we found almost 1,500 docs. Thank you for watching our presentation.